Aw man, you gotta be kidding me! Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Got a rather humorous tale to share with you guys today. 2 months ago, I found the most beautiful 2015 Supreme that I've ever seen. You guys remember this model? We talked about it before in this episode, where somebody put theirs on the toilet to help them sell it. But these things were $6,600 brand new, and they offered them in 2 different finishes, Heritage Cherry Sunburst Perimeter and Seafoam Green. Now personally, I've always been a big fan of the Seafoam, so if I was going to add one of these to my collection, that is the one I wanted. But as far as Les Paul Supremes go, they're pretty fascinating because we actually have F-holes on here. Not only are they F-holes, but they are bound. But this is constructed just like any other Supreme. You've got the carved top and the carved back. You've got the enlarged output jack that allows them to fish the electronics into there. But this particular 2015 year offered a bunch of other features. We have a golden topper over our humbucker ring and a floating mini humbucker. That's unique. But look at our inlays. We don't have our Super 400s. It's the J200 crowns. Straight up Richlight fretboard because we're within the Richlight era. And honestly, the construction is very different. See how the neck sticks up a little bit more? Kind of reminds me of like a 1974 Flying V. And on top of that, yeah, being a 2015, it's going to have that wider neck, which you're either going to love or not. And then the headstock, instead of a Globe Supreme inlay, it just straight up says Supreme. So they're kind of fascinating, and I've never been a big fan of 2015 spec'd guitars, but I've been loving Supremes a lot more lately. And most of the Cherry Sunburst ones looked like this, all pinstripey and flamed. Never really cared for these at all until I found this example. Look at that! It's awesome! It has a really nice wide flame top to it, and that just made me love this color all of a sudden to make me completely forget about Seafoam Green. And it appears to have been in pretty good condition. We even have a little bit of wood grain going on with our wide flame top, so that's an extra bonus. Looks like a little bit of sloppy finish work by the factory, but maybe that's just old buffing compound that could be cleaned up. It's either that or we've got some delamination over here, so maybe I'm not sad I missed out on this thing. But the back was equally as beautifully flamed, so alright. I was ready to make an offer on this thing despite not being the biggest fan of its specs. I wanted to document this thing, and then I probably would have ended up keeping it for my collection. So I went over here and the seller was asking, I think $4,500 at the time. And typically speaking, these will sell in the $3 to $5K range today, the Cherry Sunburst ones, in good condition, usually in that $3 to $4 range. So I was feeling generous. I offered him $4,000 plus $120 shipping. He came back with $4,150, to which I just said, nah, declined. I thought I was already making a more than fair offer, but I understood. There's some guys that go, hey, I just listed this. I want to hear more offers. But here's my advice to you. If somebody's giving you an offer that is acceptable, take it. Because a lot of times you're going to come back to them and ask if they still want it, and then they're not even going to be there anymore. So I just added this one to my watch list to see if maybe he would contact me in the future or cut the price. And imagine my surprise when he cuts the price for less than my offer, $38.50 with free shipping, and I saw it right as the price dropped. But in the 2 seconds that I verified that that was indeed less than I had offered him, I had it in my cart, I hit checkout, and then the worst message ever, someone else has purchased this item. Ah, you've gotta be kidding me. I was so upset. It's like, come on, that was the perfect example to document, even if it wasn't perfect enough for my collection. But oh well, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. Maybe he didn't want to come back with his tail between his legs going, oh, will you still give me the same offer type thing. I understand that mentality too, but that was just such a shame. So I had to message the guy, hey, if the buyer doesn't end up paying or something, please let me know. And I never heard back from him. So I'm assuming it's in a happy, lovely home now. But I thought that was a rather humorous tale. But speaking of another similar situation, here's a Gibson Les Paul Custom Shop 60 Special in what they called a green Silverburst. I don't know, sunburst meets green in the center. It certainly wasn't my favorite custom color I've ever seen. It gives me weird 60s wacky tobacco vibes. But I thought it would be a fun review and documentation. And I believe he was asking about $3,500. So I made him an offer. Yes, $2,500 plus $150 might seem a little bit low, but I do know that custom shop specials are a little bit harder to sell, especially weird, goofy custom colors. You really need the marketing power to find the end buyer. But he came back at $33, and I just decided, nah, I can't find somebody who's going to be willing to pay at least $4,000 for me to break even. So I let it go, saved it in my watch list for maybe a rock or not like you're watching right now. But hey, wouldn't you know it, it got marked down almost to my offer a couple of months later. Now this one he did reach out, but at that point, if something sat on the market for too long, I just lose interest because then it's not fresh when I bring it to my show. People have already seen it. I like the element of surprise and getting it off the market quick. So again, I drive the point home. If somebody's making an offer that's acceptable, take it. I learned that very early on because a lot of people, they'll make you an offer and you could counter them $100 higher and you'll just never hear from them again. But I suppose that mindset might differ individual versus dealer because individuals' needs might change quicker. Like, oh shoot, my car just broke down. Now we need to change the prices. So I'm not knocking any of these sellers. All is fair in gear acquisition land. But definitely let me know how you guys feel about this finish. Something tells me it might still be sitting in my shop had I had purchased it. Those were some pretty bizarre exotic guitars. Let's just look at some obnoxiously beautiful examples. This is a Yamano Les Paul quilt top from 2017. That is a great quilt, and you can tell it's gonna have a lot of movement within it as well. Looks great with that dark blue background too, but it looks like the edges are going to be black on this one. And we've got a little bit of wear to the gold pickup covers. Although it's kind of hard to tell from this photo, is that nickel and or chrome hardware or gold? Because from this angle, it kind of looks more like gold. But face of the headstock was pretty basic, but you can just bask in the glory of that awesome top. But when you get to the back, you can tell it's actually a nice dark blue finish that we were seeing on the edges. That's pretty cool. We just need like a 5-piece flame maple neck to pair alongside this. But pretty much the only downside to this is the fact that it would have the rich light fretboard, which limits the market for it. But the seller had not one, but two of them. Now this is more the quilt top that's not going to move quite as much, but it's a little bit more extreme at all angles because of the figuring is just ever apparent. It was hard for me to decide which one I liked the best, but both being from the same seller, I thought, hey, maybe I can make a nice package deal on these. We could have a really cool unboxing segment on both of these guitars. But this one is a 2016 Japan exclusive guitar. This one has a much darker blue, so they must have improved on that on the second iteration, making it a little bit lighter. And hey, it looks like I'm not the only one that uses that to polish their frets. I think this top looks better from a display perspective, but ultimately this one probably dances better. But if I remember correctly, these things started at like $8,500 and then they slowly got slashed down to about 55-ish. That's the point where they both ended up disappearing. So somebody probably made that package deal. I just never ended up reaching out, but those were choice examples. Kind of reminds me of my Dragon Les Paul, just without the cool inlays and limited edition one-off factor. Speaking of weird one-offs, here's another one from the Music Zoo. Here's a 58 Les Paul, done up with a Nashville bridge. Single humbucker and the junior style layout, master volume, master tone. Certainly a modern and boisterous take to transform your burst into a black top with only one pickup. I mean, we've seen similar things before, so it's not necessarily that jarring, but it's really that Nashville bridge that just threw me for a loop there. Hear me out though, I think this would have looked better as natural back and sides, because black tops are gorgeous. But if we're gonna do black, you might as well throw an access heel carve on it. But this was one where I didn't really understand the price point, $6,100? An R8 brand new's $5,000, so I don't really see anything worth paying $1,000 premium for. I mean, we're missing a pickup here and we no longer have a flamey top, but at least we still had the custom shop case, but it did sell, so I hope whoever has that is enjoying it. If you want another cool Music Zoo exclusive guitar, we just documented the extra special. It was a Les Paul special blent with a standard. You got your humbuckers, all this other stuff. That was a really fun guitar. I'm glad I picked it up to document, but you can check some more out in this episode. But we might as well continue on our theme of weirdly spec'd guitars. Here's one from 2018. So this is a regular Les Paul special, but they gave it a little bit of a maple top. They also did maple top SGs that were just plain maple. Typically when you get a flamed SG, it's flamed or super quilty, like a Supreme or the Elegant series that we've documented. But in 2017/2018, they just decided to put plain maple tops on these. They have a certain vibe to them. I mean, they're not the most popular guitars out there, but it's a late Henry J type thing, so I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for it. But we've got the upgraded ABR1 bridge, still have our P90 pickups, we've got a tortoiseshell pickguard, going for that all red theme. Back didn't really change too much. What this really needed was a tortoiseshell binding around it. Like you can almost see it just looking at it. That would have made those incredibly cool and collectible. But it's got a nice dark Merlot finish. I dig that. That one wasn't too badly priced. But following that up, we've got a really rare, strange beast. So it's a Gibson L6S with rare appointments, they said. So naturally, I clicked on this because we've got block inlays. Only the very first ones had those. But I've never seen one with an ebony fretboard like that. And it's a completely dark custom finish. Looks like we've got some cracking going along here. It's either that or it's some sort of a seam line separation. But then I got to the headstock. Oh, weird Gibson script logo. I've only ever seen that on the L6S prototype. So that kind of got me thinking. Ebony fretboard, small block inlays, prototypical headstock. This might have been a very early prototype. So naturally, I go through the photos, the headstock looks a little bit weird. We've got a regular serial number. It's got the early 72 style Gibson tuners. It's got the volute. Everything was looking all right on this. Until you get to the back and somebody's chewed it up with a belt buckle, but there was just so much mystery behind this one. Now that it's sold, I'm kind of kicking myself for not making an offer, but if I remember correctly, like the whole thing was rewired and it looks like it actually started life as wine red and it's just faded into this cool brown hue. Now, if it was a true prototype, I mean, I guess it's possible maybe they were just like, hey, maybe we don't do that on all of them. And it's nice that they've got the blacklight photos. Thankfully, our Veritone was still in there, but apparently it didn't work. But I was sad to see that they marked it all the way down to $1,200. I think even with some of the uncertainties there, that was a pretty cool example for what it was. I still don't 100% have all the answers for that, but I wanted to share it with you. And to round things out for tonight, if you stay till the end, you're in for a big treat. So Sam Ash listed a Zoot Suit SG, but you've never seen one like this. Somebody actually took it and played it. All the nice white wood and light colors has been dirtified. It's so disgusting. It's like a clown that rose from the dead. They replaced the pickups, but they had custom faceplates made for it to match the vibe of everything else. They threw a Bigsby B5 Vibromate on it. We've got custom topped knobs. You know, these things are about 10 years old now. It's always interesting to think what a modern day guitar will look like after 30, 40 years of being on the road. And this is kind of a sneak peek into our future. Our headstock doesn't look like they changed too much besides our tuners. And the back fared a little bit better. As far as the color, looks like it got some scratches here from a strap. And the neck has definitely been soiled. But that's the interesting thing about the Zoot Suits. They just have a satin finish over top of them. So you can never technically wear through the color on these things. The wood itself is dyed. It's birch wood. They layer them all up and then they carve out the body. I've documented an entire set of Zoot Suits here if you want to check it out, as well as individually reviewed them. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day, and you might even enjoy this next one.